Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome to Adventures in History. Today's topic is Zuck Family Letters, 1950 to 1984. This was originally published as Zuck Family Memories Collection number 55, or ZFMC 55, published on August 19th, 2000. And these are actually letters from my father's parents, from my father's mother, Gertrude Zuck Ray, to my parents, and from my father's father, Doran Eugene Ray, to my parents, and actually to my mother's parents. And the first letter is from Doran Eugene Ray, my father's father, 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, October 11th, 1950. My dear Mr. and Mrs. Smallshaw, that's my mother's parents. Mrs. Ray and I want to express our appreciation for the newspaper accounts of the wedding. This would be the wedding of my parents, John and Ruth Ray, and the snapshots which you sent to us. It was very thoughtful of you. We have been over to Cleveland once since our return from Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada, and John and Ruth have all their furniture now, although, as John said, there are still a few odds and ends to get. I told him that condition was never completely eliminated, as he would find out as time went on. We talked to them on the phone last night, and although they are as busy as ever, they both said things were getting better organized and going along in good shape. They have both been well, which is fortunate, for the schedule they have doesn't allow any time out for illness. It's hard to believe that you have had snow already this fall. We ordinarily don't look for snow here until the early part of December. Thanks again for sending the clippings and snapshots. You can be sure we will always treasure them. Sincerely, Doran Ray. The next letter is from Gertrude Zuck Ray, my father's mother. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, November 14th, 1950. Dear John and Ruth, everyone seems to be planning to be in Marion for Thanksgiving. Even Rachel's family may get there. Now, if the weatherman will cooperate, it promises to be a big occasion. We are especially glad you are coming. Those fine marks you both had in your last exams, they represent much hard work, and we are proud of you. A's in college are an achievement. The Marion-Sandusky football game in Marion last Friday night was the most exciting game of the season, but we nearly froze. Helen and Steve went with us. Dick had hitched up from Columbus, and he and Barbara went to Red Shoes in preference to freezing. Sandusky finally won. I'm glad the cheerleaders don't have to get out in their short skirts and anklets for the rest of the season. This was the final football game. Basketball cheerleading isn't so strenuous. Dad looked better this time, but he has to take it easy. Hardening of the arteries seems to be causing faulty circulation to the brain, which brings on these chills. If he is careful and rests a lot, they are not so frequent. Harold Freilich is production schedule manager at the General Motors Parts Factory in Marion. Works from 6:30 a.m. until 6 o'clock p.m. 6 days a week. Long working hours, but there's a good chance of advancement. He and his family and Dick had dinner at Mary's Friday night. I resurrected a bird feeding table out of the garage today. It's cleaned up now, ready to go outside the breakfast nook window, and I hope we'll have many visitors this winter. We had a cardinal in the backyard this morning, and Doran is going to get some sunflower seeds to entice him to the window. We have the last of our roses now, a red one on the dining room table. Cool fall nights makes their coloring especially vivid. I'd like to put in another row this fall, but there is plenty of time. If you get them in too early, they start to leaf out, and of course that's a waste of energy at this time of year. This chilly weather makes us wonder how cold it is in Regina. They must have had snow by this time. I mean real winter snow, not the kind we had here last week that melted as it fell. Doran and I spent last evening pasting gold stars on the dress Carol is to wear in the high school play next week. Spread its six-yarded skirt on the living room floor and scotch-taped the stars all around the hem. It took practically the whole evening. The play is to be given for the public the Friday night after Thanksgiving. I wish you both could come over. but I know Friday night is law school, and perhaps Ruth has classes too that night. There was a lovely violin-piano recital program here the other Sunday afternoon, given by the head of the string department at Berea and his accompanist. Carol and I went, but Doran stayed home and raked the yard, which had been sadly neglected. Gussie and Carol are lying here in the breakfast nook window seat relaxing after a strenuous day at school. Carol has been busy, though, with the play practically every night last week. She has been making good grades, too, and naturally has to see that Dave isn't suffering from too little attention. We enjoyed your good, thoughtful letters. Doran told Dick what a fine letter Ruth had written. We'll be planning to see you Thanksgiving. Affectionately yours, Mother. And the next letter is from Gertrude Zuck Ray. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, May 7th, 1951. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Smallshaw, this is my letter to my mother's parents. This is the time of year that the outdoors is a fairyland in northern Ohio. The orchards are beginning to bloom, and we have peach, cherry, pear, apple, and plum up here. Against the background of woods, small lakes, lagoons, bays, and Lake Erie itself, these blossoming trees are lovely, especially where the landscape is rolling. If you have an extra picture like the one Bud chose, Dick would like it when you come this summer. I have the one of Ruth alone smiling in a silver frame on the bookshelves. I like that one especially. We had such a beautiful hand-painted Easter card from John and Ruth, which she had done herself. I still have it here on the deck. Ohio roads have been in worse condition this spring than I ever remember. We have so much heavy truck traffic, and then the severe weather made the bad combination. They are partially repaired and hope they will be in much better shape by the time of your visit. Carol graduates the 31st of this month. Has been accepted over at Flora Stone Mather, the girls' school at Western Reserve. She plans to work here in Sandusky this summer, and I think Dick will too. He has 2 more quarters down at State. Hope you are well and are looking forward to seeing you in July. Our best to you and Bud, Gertrude Ray. And the next letter is from Gertrude Zuck Ray. And she was staying at my parents' house in Cleveland. 1560 Luxor Road, Cleveland, Ohio, November 12th, 1952. My older brother Mark had been born, my parents' first child. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Smallshaw, tonight is our first trip to Cleveland since the baby came, and he is a fine baby, and Ruth is coming along very well. Looks so happy and still can scarcely believe she and John have such a big boy. John just said he is 20 inches long, besides weighing 8 pounds and 12 ounces. Ruth thinks he looks like John, but it's a little early for me to say. He has a lovely complexion, wide-set, big blue eyes, and a nice head shape, ears tight to his head, and looks around as though he were a month old. He flings his arm around like a football player. Didn't like it at all when the nurse wanted him to look pretty for us. His hair is black, what there is of it, but he is fair-skinned. One thing sure, you can't mistake him for a girl. I think John and Ruth both expected a tiny girl, for Ruth wasn't conspicuous, even up to the last. Ruth is writing you tomorrow. The hospital routine has kept her pretty busy so far. She's in a room with one other woman and says the food is fine. I know you are happy that everything is going so well, and you'll be hearing from John and Ruth soon. Sincerely yours, Gertrude Ray. The next letter is from Gertrude Zuck Ray, my father's mother, and the letter is to my mother's parents, Augusta and George Smallshaw. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, USA, January 16th, 1961. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Smallshaw, so good to get your note, and we delivered Carol and Dave's card. Their address is 224 Ohio Street, Huron, Ohio. They moved to Huron several years ago. It's 9 miles east of Sandusky, and are gradually fixing up this older house which they bought. It is becoming a lovely home and is in a nice location, just a short walk down their street to a beautiful park on Lake Erie. Lisa's school is on their street, too. It was good to have children and grandchildren in the house over Christmas. Ruth and John's family stayed 2 days and 2 nights, so it was quite a vacation for all of us. Peter John is such a good boy, rarely cries and loves everybody. I suppose you know Joan, Dick, and Michael flew to Florida to spend the holiday with Joan's parents at Lake Alfred. We're gone about 3 weeks. May you have a good year. Know you enjoyed Doris and Bud's family. Best regards, Gertrude Ray. The next letter is from Gertrude Zuck Ray. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, February 8, 1961. Dear folks, it was good to review John's talk from the clipping. Very good write-up. I know how useful a scrapbook of clippings can be for future reference, so you must want to keep it. We didn't go to Marion after all Sunday. Carol and Dave had a banquet and dance Saturday night, so the children were here overnight, and then the whole family for Sunday. Lisa is much more self-reliant since she goes to kindergarten, and I think Kathy learns a lot from her. Sunday afternoon, we drove over to Castalia, Ohio, to see the ducks. What a sight, thousands of them. I have never seen anything like it. Surely some of them were migrants. We didn't have a bird book along, but I talked to a woman who did, and we identified some. People were taking pictures and studying them and generally having a duck festival. There was one little round-headed, light blue-billed fellow that was especially cute. Now there was a striking, snow-white-sided, black-striped, black-back one that was a beauty. They seemed much wilder than usual, so must have been visitors. There has been good skating down at Battery Park. We haven't skated for years, but Doran and I both have skates in the attic. There really can be lots of fun in winter on the lake if we dress for it. This coming Monday is the program in church I told you about, so we won't get to Marion this weekend. It always takes about a day to rest up after a Marion trip in winter. Mary writes that Mother is pretty good. Congratulations on Peter's first tooth. And how does Patty like nursery school? We are glad Mark and Pam do so well in school. Tomorrow night is Rotary and dinner and program, usually a fine evening. Tonight a roast pork dinner for our Pilgrim Fellowship. Doran has been eating lightly for 2 days in anticipation. Love to you all, Mother. And the next letter is from Gertrude Zuck Ray. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, Friday, November 30th, 1962. Dear folks, Ruth's note and Mark's Thanksgiving story came, and we are always glad to hear. Sorry Pam had an upset and hope she is fine now. I'll give the clipping to Carol and Dave. It seems there are so many details in planning a house. What you want and what you can do don't always jibe. We did find dolls for Pam and Patty, Ruth. They aren't exactly what Pam described, but the head and arms do move when you wind them up, and they are cute. Thought perhaps you would like to show so we won't get duplicates. We want to get Mark's football uniform too. Your Thanksgiving flowers are still lovely, and it has been over a week. We appreciated the candy too. It helped out on the supper. Did we tell you we would like to have you here on Christmas Day? Joan and Dick will be with us. Carol and Dave spend that day with the Shiveleys. We have been planning a Christmas program for the Women's Fellowship. Think we do have something a little different this year. The tree decorated with painted cookies to eat afterwards. Big colored pictures of the Christmas story outlined with silver tinsel and lighted candles on each side. Background for the music, devotions, and Christmas projects program. Isn't this weather welcome? Wonderful for shopping. Thanks, Mark, for the Thanksgiving story. So neat. Love to you all, Mother. P.S. Hope the blood donated helped. And the next letter is from Gertrude Zuck Ray. 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, August 16th, 1965. Dear folks, Friday night was a delight. We did enjoy it. The tour of the new fountain display was such a surprise and so lovely. So thanks for one of the best times of this summer. Lenore called last night. She is in Marion again for a few weeks. Mother seems pretty good, as another woman lined up when the girl there now returns to school. How do you like the heat? We stayed at home after church until evening with the fan and TV yesterday. The new piano is a treasure. Finishes your living room in style, and is so fine for the children to grow up with. Thanks again for Friday. Love, Mother. The next letter is from Gertrude Zuck. Monday, October 3rd, 1977. Dear folks, do you want Mark's sermon returned? The younger generation is really trying. Mark will probably look back on the present years as a time of growth in his religious life. I must read up on Gnostics. Mark discussed Gnostics a little while in Lakeside. Those flowers at the back of the house, which I called ladies' slippers, are really balsam. I took a stalk out to the greenhouse to find out. They come in both single and double flowers, white, pink, various shades of red, and once started continues year after year. I went to a religious retreat in Lakeside the other day, and one of the women in our discussion group had a relative who had really branched out, is in a commune in Germany, a lifestyle to further Christianity as he sees it. I was a little dumbfounded to be the leader of our group, mostly Lutheran, but it was a challenge and we had a good time sharing our thinking. I suppose Peter is beginning to seriously decide about college. Patty writes with a lot of enthusiasm about Brown. Again, I want to thank you for the diary. John called the other day, and one of Dad's cousins, whose grandmother was a sister of Grandfather Zuck, had contacted him about the Zuck family tree. I have her address and may contact her. She may have pictures and anecdotes about the Zuck family. The trees are beginning to turn, the beautiful time of year. Thought you might enjoy the monarch clipping. Love, Mother. And the next letter is from Gertrude Zuck, 1407 Marlborough Street, Sandusky, Ohio, 44870. Wednesday afternoon, October 4th, 1978. Dear folks, thanks so much for calling. Your roses lasted over a week, so I really enjoyed them. The leaves are beginning to turn out in front, the lovely time of the year. Peter out of school, the first fall for 12 years. Love, Mother. And the last letter is from Gertrude Zuck, 224 Williams Street, Apartment G, Huron, Ohio, 44839. December 31st, 1984. Dear folks, I hope you have had a fine, restful vacation. I've thought of you often and the beautiful Christmas you brought me. So many things I like. The amaryllis is about 10 inches high already. I can almost see it grow. We had a whole row of crimson amaryllis on the south side of our little house in Florida the winter we lived there. I have really enjoyed reading the Peter Beebe brief, the session I attended in Akron, the only time I ever listened to John in court. I thought was pretty rough. You can be tremendously proud of your work on that project. It had and will continue to have such far-reaching effects. I found reading the brief very stimulating, though I admit I had to do some mental somersaults in order to follow parts of it. It was a challenge to me, and that is good. Lenore would like to read it. Whatever has happened to Peter Beebe? The flyers for your convention of the Federation of Insurance Council should like you, really live it up at these meetings. The pictures in the Greenbrier 1984 issue had one fine print of John. I have enjoyed the ones of John receiving the 3-year Trustee Cleveland Bar Association Award and the one with Judge Markers. Just saying thank you for all this somehow seems inadequate. The snapshots of you both are here on the living room buffet along with other treasured prints, so you are often in my thoughts. Lenore and Dale left for Florida yesterday morning. They drove up Christmas Day in spite of ice and snow, and we had dinner at Carol and Dave's. The Shiveleys were there too, and of course Lisa and Kathy. I talked to Dick yesterday. They had a fine Christmas, and the little girls helped make it fun. Dick cooked the turkey dinner. Helen spent Christmas at Steve and Connie's. I haven't heard from her since she's back. I had cards from Jan and Mark and Patty and Peter and the lovely Sierra Club Wilderness Calendar from Patty. I'll have to get a note off to her. Blessings on all of you in 1985. Love always, Mother. So that concludes today's presentation, Zuck Family Letters from 1950 to 1984. Good luck to you with your efforts in family history if this is something that interests you. Finding, preserving, and sharing old letters, diaries, and photographs, and interviewing elderly relatives while they're alive. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.